Colorado, I have a love-hate relationship with that
I think
state.
we all do, right? And for our own reasons.
Yes, man, it's a beautiful state, but I feel like that state's been hijacked.
It has, oh man, how do we say it without saying California?
I'll say it with a capital C, California. The problem with, that I've seen with, and this is just, man, it's me, judge me, whatever. I'm sure we'll see this in the comments, getting demonized for it.
I mean, maybe it'll get some traction that way.
And I just want to say, I'm totally okay with that.
Me too.
Yeah. Welcome, everyone, to our first episode of Crude Conversations with your host, myself, Dakotah Klein. Today we have with us Lord Bailey Midkiff.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, sir. Glad you're here, man. So let's jump into the name, sure.
Oh, for sure. So the Lord Bailey Midkiff. So I kid you not, and I shouldn't say this because this is probably public record now, but I was watching the Kardashians. I think it's Keeping Up with the Kardashians was a show with an individual at the time, and Scott Disick went through all this longevity of information to become a lord or a prince or knighted, whatever the case may have been that he went through. I went down this rabbit hole immediately, right? Started Googling, started looking at YouTube. What's the most effective, easiest way to do this?
YouTube and Google, man.
I did, and I found a way to where essentially in Scotland you could buy property and then you change your name because, way back in the era when you own property or anything,
sure.
It wasn't a thing so active or so prominent as it is now, you could change your name. So I bought not one plot, but two plots. Everybody knows, because if people know about this little, corner avenue to make it happen, they buy one little plot, but I had to do the two, just put a mini house maybe, whatever they call them, traveling mini house.
There you go.
If I get desperate, I can move to Scotland.
Perfect. So I wasn't sure if it wasn't the Prince of the Powder River Basin that title come with or whatever, so I wasn't sure there. So that's a cool story, man. So I've actually seen some of that. Social media back in the day where you could buy a plot and get the lordship. That's pretty awesome.
I think Facebook was a big thing. That's
I think so. Yeah.
A shame on me, I never saw that because that would have made it way easy. I could have just done it on the fly. I could have been having a toddy and just done it in 5 minutes. But that was the route I took. Right?
Yeah, man. I think when I seen it in 2009, I was too broke to even afford the little inch square that you get
the little
to get.
plot I'm talking about.
For sure. Yeah, man. So, man, thank you again for flying in from Wyoming to be with us today, man. It's awesome to have you here in downtown Midland, Texas, man. Welcome to the Permian Basin. Definitely glad you decided to spend your evening with us. So, man, just again, welcome to the show, and looking forward to having this conversation with you.
Dakotah, I've always wanted to meet you in person, and what better way than your first episode, and, the timing of it. I don't know if the sweet Lord was trying to point me in the awesome direction, such as yourself, but it blows my mind that I reached out when I saw in your logo, I want to say it is a glass with two pieces of eyes. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah,
okay,
correct.
yeah. And I mean, obviously,
man.
It's got a sexy pour in it. I don't know if it's Blanton's or Pendleton or whatever. I don't know what the Midland. What is the Midland juice of choice?
Well, it kind of depends on the price of oil. What's in that glass?
Okay. So it's like every other basin.
Yeah, there you go.
So right now it might be all right. It's in the middle mark.
Yeah,
it's in the middle.
yeah.
It's not the full top shelf, but it's right in the middle shelf.
Yeah, like I said, we're in kind of the stuff that's not head high, but not on the floor. We're kind of mid-level right now with our current commodity pricing. So
top shelf at Olive Garden, but not top shelf at the Cowboy Prime.
Correct. Anybody that's been to Cowboy Prime here in Midland know that commodity pricing better be where it needs to be to walk in that place. So
it is joyous. It was my first time today. Actually, a guy by the name of Jeremy Helms.
Yeah, super nice guy.
Nice
guy. Yeah, for sure.
We shot the shit, for lack of better terms. You can edit that out. But and I got a lot of information from him. I was glad he brought me there because I know I came to Midland a lot back in the day in my younger years in sales and oil and gas, and it's been a year or two, so shame on me to the Midland people watching, but I'm definitely back and active, coming back down, showing my face, and it was well worth the time. It was perfect lunch. Yeah, I'm glad I found it.
Awesome. So, man, so kind of what this show is based off of, man, it's not so much a sales pitch. Like I said, there's plenty of places to hear the sales pitch.
Right.
Being an oil and gas professional or being just a professional in general, an entrepreneur, whether you're successful in sales or operations, or the guy that's went from nothing to the 7, 8, 9 figure company or whatever.
Well, 10 now.
Yeah.
In some cases.
Right. So basically, is what we want to dive in here. My whole goal with starting this podcast was to basically, I want to draw new people to the industry.
Okay.
People that aren't fifth generation like yourself, third generation like myself. The man or female, right? The man or woman that is not from an oil and gas background, that's looking for something to do, looking to make a great living, looking to get away from home. These urban kids that are looking to get out and and really do something with themselves. I want them to hear it from guys like me and you and my future guest of, man, just tell me your story. Let's start at your childhood. Let's start from there and see what influenced you throughout your childhood to get you where you are today in the industry.
I love that. I mean, let's dabble in the beginning, right? So, crazy thing. My dad, my grandfather, and his brothers came up from Missouri to drill for a company. And I shouldn't say the name. I want to say it's Sowers Drilling, but it might have been a company before that when they went to that. Sure. But, just for storytelling, let's go with Sowers Drilling. My dad came to town. Back then, there wasn't a lot of drilling rigs. It wasn't a huge industry, especially coming to Wyoming. So these young guys pull into town, mullets, Trans Ams, pickup trucks, got money in their pocket, right? Well, my mother actually lived on a ranch outside of Lusk, Wyoming. So it's in between like Edgemont, South Dakota and Lusk, Wyoming. So anybody kind of...
I have no idea where that's at.
I was going to say, it's like if you go to Sturgis Rally or if anybody goes to Deadwood 9 times out of 10... Sure. Or South Dakota in general, correct me if I'm wrong. They usually travel through my town. You blink, you miss it. It's 1,400 people. Yeah. But my dad moved to town, hanging out at the bar. My mom was in town. They must have met each other. And then, for lack of better terms, my dad was definitely attending to the drilling prospects in both his personal and his business aspect of life.
I don't condone that behavior, but I really don't condone that behavior. But I get it.
So I am a product of oil and gas,
sure,
right? So which is amazing for the industry to hear, and as a whole, that's kind of where I started. With that being said, back in those days, we didn't have cell phones, we didn't have the corporate structure, or even the individuals to have a rotation or free time. Mm-hmm. So my dad was gone constantly.
Sure.
So when he wasn't drilling, one of my uncles was, and he was working on their rig, right? Trying to fill gaps, maintain everybody's labor, so on and so forth. So I didn't see him a lot in between that. So I ended up being essentially raised by my mom in like the ranch lifestyle,
sure.
the hometown mentality. Sure. Did that for quite some time. And then I would say, man, it's been so long. So let's think back. I might have been like 5, 6 years old. My mom left Lusk to go to college in Rapid City. So my first time out of my amazing metropolis of 1,400 people, right? And I didn't know at the time,
right.
But looking back now, I can kind of all put it together. She went to college, just got her basics,
Sure.
Nothing, maybe an associate's with it. I would have to ask her. It's been so long. But ended up meeting a guy, had my sister with another individual. So we ended up moving in with him for a little bit. That was short-lived. And then we ended up back in Lusk. And I spent probably a good majority of elementary till about the end of elementary, not quite to middle school. Moved back to Rapid City again.
Sure.
So my mom could essentially raise my daughter back and forth with her father.
Was that the whole Jinko scene that you discussed when we were
talking?
Yeah.
So and I'm getting to that because it's really funny because maybe people can relate, right? But so I moved back, and at that point, kids are mean. I think we see that, right? Mm-hmm. Even more. It's never going to change. Just I think it's more public, the bullying and stuff like that.
Sure.
But so I show up at a school, right? And I'm in my Wrangler Pro Rodeos, my cowboy hat, my sweet Garth Brooks little shirt, just thinking I'm looking fly. They shut me down real quick.
Right,
so in a big city, I fit out like a sore thumb.
I understand. So I can kind of relate to that statement. So I graduated with like 42 people. Graduated from a small 2A high school in Deep East Texas, and there was so as you were the odd man out, we had like 2 or 3 people that wore the big Jinko jeans or whatever they were called, man, with the big like 26-inch flares.
Well, I just remember it had the logo dude on it, right? Like he's like doing some cool move or maybe skateboard, whatever it was, right?
Doing something that related nothing to what we did in Wyoming or Deep East Texas. So I can definitely relate to that statement.
Yes.
So
yeah, it's funny, but so I figured out real quick that it was going to be a rough road. Luckily for me, there was a transition. So we lived in a 1-bedroom apartment at this time. She moved back, single mom trying to take care of herself. I want to say at this time, my mom finally went for child support for my dad. Mm-hmm. And I mean, he probably doesn't want me to admit it, but he must have been doing really well back then because we're talking, this is early 90s. Because I was born in 89, so still an 80s baby, right? So it still counts.
I'm 84 model, so I'm with you.
89 model, still counts. And he was paying $800 a month back then. So I don't know. It's pretty substantial,
With
right?
today's inflation, that's like $8,000.
It was a lot of money.
Like, yeah.
So good for him, right? But she met another guy, which she stayed with. She pretty much still seeing now. That was like a long, I don't know, 15, 16, maybe longer years, whatever.
Sure.
We ended up moving in with him, so I got this amazing opportunity, right, to rebrand myself. It's
Right.
almost like I was an oilfield service company that just demolished my name, but I got the opportunity to put a new logo on it and start fresh.
Yeah.
So
file Chapter 7 and come back something else
I
on
literally
Monday,
filed
right?
Chapter 7 on my life, right? And just went and got new stuff. So I was
Yeah,
like, this
that's
is my
awesome,
chance,
man.
Mom,
Yeah.
right? So I went in, dude, and I was the Justin Bieber before there was Justin Bieber. I
Yeah.
had, the sweet flip hair. I had my sweet jeans,
Yeah.
my shirt,
Yeah.
5 girlfriends, because at a young age, that's
Yeah.
respectable. Definitely not now.
There you
I mean,
go.
unless, I've watched some shows where you could be a religion, but I mean, that's a whole different rabbit hole in itself, right?
Right.
But yeah, I went through that, and it was phenomenal. And then I ended up going to middle school in Rapid City. So something really cool as, I went through that middle school era, it was still really nice. Everything was going good. I kind of transitioned back. So there was like a shift in the world to where it was like, I want to say like Jackass came out and stuff,
Yeah.
right? So like long hair and rock and roll was coming back to the scene. Skateboarding was getting its real like push and drive.
Yeah. That's like the
So-
Tony Hawk, like later Tony Hawk era. Yeah.
like him being like selling all this stuff now, just
Yeah.
like he was really cool because of how good he was.
Right,
so,
right.
More case, and so I transitioned back to like tight pro rodeos, long hair, sexy stuff, kind of back into my norm. Well, where it gets really cool and my story kind of transitioned to more epicness is South Dakota doesn't bus to high school. And I don't know what other states do this, but you get your full driver's license at 14 because you got to drive as a freshman in high school because they don't, which is probably a great way to cut costs from like a government standpoint, et cetera.
Yeah,
And
I can comment on that. The only way I made it to 39 a day is because I didn't have a driver's license at 14. I promise
they
you.
knew better than to give you something of such
the state of Texas knew
responsibility.
that would not be a good idea for sure.
Maybe they've learned their lesson through the years, right? Maybe South Dakota just hasn't,
Yeah, right.
whatever the case may be.
Right.
But so my dad, one of the few times I saw him before into my story, I end up, kind of being with him full time, is he shows up with a 77 Cutlass Supreme Broham edition. A rig vehicle is what he called it. It had 450,000 miles when he gave it to me. He said, it's never broke down, perfect starter car for you. You hit a deer, it's not going to hurt it, And he was right. It still runs and drives to this day with some starter fluid, but
There you
that's
go.
a separate
Oh,
entity.
yeah.
So I go my freshman year at what they call Central High School in Rapid City. Then it goes back to, it's pure chaos, right? There was a lot of people from the reservation and a lot of fights. It was super wild, total transition of chaos. I didn't
Sure.
expect it. It was wild, but sorry parents if you didn't know this part, but so I was skipping school my freshman year. And there's only like 2 weeks left,
Right.
so I wasn't worried about it. My grades were really good. I've always had really good grades, took care of that. I was a responsible individual in that sense, besides a few skipping I did.
There you go.
But I was sitting at home because they had a telemarketer system, so if you skipped, they just called your house, and you could kind of tell what time it was. So I knew when I needed to be there, so I could pick it up so nobody else did.
That or unplug the phone so it doesn't
Yeah,
ring.
whatever I had to do to make sure nobody else but me got it.
There you
right?
go.
So I pick up the phone. Well, it's my dad, and he goes, "Hey, I'm leaving the oil field. I'm leaving Ensign. I'm starting full time my own water well service company," which he did on the back end. He was doing it on his days off.
Sure.
So week on, he was being a driller. Week off, he's trying to grow his business. He's like, "You want to come live with me?" I said, "Yeah, that'd be great." I packed up my stuff and left. Didn't even tell my mom that I left. Drove to Lusk.
So how'd that go over with Mom?
So about 3 days later, my mom calls my father and says, "I can't find your son." He goes, "Well, he's right here. You want to talk to him?"
Yeah, he's working.
He didn't tell you?
Yeah, he's working floors.
That's essentially it, right? I wouldn't realize the glory and epicness of his plan until in my later years where I was free labor. The guy was brilliant, right? He had to figure out. He's like, "Well, I can raise my son, and I can just run him ragged," right? That was his goal. Like if I wasn't at school or playing football, I was running a rig or I was working with him on one, right? That was just the story of it.
Bet I can totally relate to that. So I finally worked up for lack of a better term, the testicular fortitude to tell my dad at like 20 years old that Lincoln freed the slaves a long time ago.
I want a paycheck?
Yeah, right. Like, hey, Dad, so. Hey, I appreciate the the whole mentorship, but like, does this gig pay anything? You know what I mean? But
He's like, you're like, I can run it on my own now.
Yeah,
like
I said, for me though, I'm gonna give praise to my dad because he did pay me subpar what I thought I was worth, but at the end of the day, like I said, they took care of us like your dad. I'm sure took care of you, whether we were clothed, fed, and had something to do that kept us out of kept us out of a felony anyway. There may have been some misdemeanors involved, but
I definitely have that same rap sheet, I think, in a sense. I mean, I was young once, right?
I understand.
It's funny you say that, because I got up the courage, and maybe it was like my junior summer or something, I said, man, it'd be great if I could have some fun tickets. He's like, fun tickets, like some cash, I mean, these ladies aren't cheap. I'm like a young guy trying to have fun. And he goes, I give you all the Mountain Dew you can drink and a roof over your head. And that was his paycheck.
Well, like I said, there's worse places to be, I promise you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But he definitely, the work ethic's what I got out of it, right? And shame on me. So I have all girls. So right now, 2 with one and 1 with another. They're both amazing women. Nothing bad to say. But we'll keep them out of it. Because I'll say something wrong and then I won't hear the end of it.
No comment.
But I will say, I don't know how to put that forth on my daughters because they're not boys, right? So I'm in this weird world, and I mean, I met your daughter today, so I mean, kind of same thing. Like, I get it now. Like, well, here you go. Here's $10. You don't have to work for it. I mean, it's like a foreign language to me, right? And I mean, I want them to be happy and content, but at the same time, in the back end, I will admit it. I know I could probably do more. I just don't know what that looks like.
Man, so one of my biggest regrets with my kid, one of the most awesome things that has happened, and one of the biggest regrets I have with my kids is getting my Cash App card. Because I was thinking I could send my kids cash to get them out of a bind, but I didn't know a bind was going to be like 3 or 4 days a week.
Literally today, I Venmo my daughter.
I hit my kid with $25 to go eat lunch. I mean, where in America does it cost $25 to go, like, for a 14-year-old to go eat? But he is 6'4", 265.
Eating for 2.
Yeah, I've been eating 3 or 4, feels like. But man, I get it. If he was in Midland, it makes sense. You know what I mean? But he's in, little town in kind of, I guess that'd be kind of central East Texas. Franklin, Texas is where he's at. There's like a couple gas stations.
I'd have to look at a map.
Man, I had to look at it when I moved there. Right?
You're like, Franklin where?
Yeah, Franklin where? I've heard of it, But yeah, so going back to your childhood and the bouncing back and forth, growing up in a split household, and that's something I kind of want to touch on. Cause like I said, I want us to have those crude conversations.
Yeah,
right?
we definitely can. No, for sure.
That's where the whole name comes from, right?
Hit me with the hard ones. Absolutely.
So for me, my parents have been married 40 plus years, right?
Oh, wow. Well, congratulations to them. That is a feat. I couldn't do it.
Dude, my parents are awesome. Like I said, everything that I have, everything that I've ever achieved in life, I owe to really 3 different people. That's the good Lord, my mom and dad, right? Like I said, my efforts played a part in it, but it was the blessing of the good Lord and the inspiration of my mom and dad.
The guidance and the paving of the road before you drove it. That's catchy. I just made it up now. You can borrow that.
Exactly. I'm going to write that down. I'll be watching this tomorrow and I'll write it down.
There you go.
So one of my something that you do, this couldn't happen any better for me and you. So my kids, my sons are growing up. So my sons are growing up in a split household, right?
Okay.
So with you finding your own level of success, growing up in a split home, what advice could you offer to kids growing up in a split household of being able to find the level of success that you found? And dude, like this is a question that I think a lot of our viewers and listeners will really relate to, especially with the, it sucks to say, but with the divorce rates the way they are today.
Oh, they get higher and higher.
The single parent households, with the next best thing is a like or click away, So I'm really excited to hear how that molded you into being the professional that you are today. This, you told me you had a girlfriend now, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And not only the professional and the better half, or having a better half,
right,
but just even a parent of three kids with 2 different women, and I can relate to that statement. So man, I really want to hear your experience on that and like what you have to offer those kids that I have nothing to offer because I didn't grow up that way.
I think one thing that's really hard for people to see, and when they do see it, they've missed out on a ton of opportunity, is if something bothers you, or even if something like that is destructive to your life, you've got to let it be there. Your mind is an amazing piece of machinery. It forgets nothing. I actually was told not too long ago and years prior that, as we're talking right now, our mind sees everything and it protects our body. And like if we get stuck on the way we move our tongue, then we're stuck on it, right? And I mean, all this stuff is still happening in the background, and the mind, it remembers that. The mind never forgets anything, right? So you have to let it be there, and you can't let it affect you at all, right?
Right.
Positivity is a choice. It always will be a choice. I will say with all that, like, preaching of the choir of amazingness, like positivity stuff. I think it helped a ton because I knew what I didn't want.
Right.
And I got an opportunity to live multi-lifestyles, right? From, single parent to 2 different parents to family organized, and some people never, a prime example, your mom and dad have been together forever, so you never experienced any of that, right? So you can't really relate.
I'm clueless to that whole scenario.
And it definitely showed me how to be aggressive, right? And it showed me that I can have more than she had. Because in the beginning, when I was younger, living in Lust, we had it really good because obviously she had help from her parents and the ranch, et cetera, et cetera. But when we went on our own, I saw her struggle and the challenge, and it's not an easy feat. Yeah, and I was like, I never want to live like this again, right? So if anything, she built me into the person that I wanted to be. And I mean, I'm still growing every day, right?
Sure.
The key is never stopping, continual improvement. Education, learning, reading books, communicating, podcasts,
Sure.
Meeting people, taking criticism, which is amazing that some people still have a challenge with that. It's 2024. If you're listening to this, let it go.
dude, I am putting myself out there, with doing this. Just like we discussed at dinner earlier, before we sat down and decided to decide this. Man, I stuttered for the first 14 years of my life. Could not speak. If I was nervous, I couldn't speak. If I was going to ask a question to a stranger, I couldn't speak. If I was asking a question I wasn't comfortable with, I couldn't speak. And dude, I got picked on for that, right?
Oh, I believe that's like I said, kids are mean. And even nowadays, even with all the visibility.
Yeah, and for me, it was one of those things, and my friends that really know me, like, I have a low tolerance for nonsense.
I could see that. I mean, I haven't been around you enough to give you some nonsense that you won't tolerate, but I could see that. You're a really cut and dry guy. If it's wrong, you're going to say something.
You either love me or you hate me. And, that's one of those things that like I said, growing up with some form of adversity, right?
Right.
Whether it's, I'm not going to call what I had a disability, a not normal, for lack of a better way to put it. I'm going to put it in East Texas terms.
Okay.
I wasn't like everybody else, right?
Yeah.
And probably when you were a kid, I feel like there may have been some of that of like, hey,
sure.
like their parents are here, my parent is here.
Right.
And that was a big fear, for me. I was married for close to a decade, right? It just didn't work out. Like I said, we're way better apart than we ever were together.
Did you grow apart, for lamest terms, or not so much?
I have always worked off. I've been in the oil and gas business my whole adult life, right? But like I said, I'm not going to blame it on that. I'm going to blame it on not being the man, the spouse, the father, the Christian that I was called to be, right?
Yeah.
Being a young man, living, I got tied up in worldly things. I got tied up in living for this world and not living for what I was called to do as a self-proclaimed Christian, right? And like I said, I'm not going to sit here and preach to anybody.
Right.
But for me, that's my story. You know what I mean? I was living for this world. I was living for everything but what I was called to live for.
Right.
Right. And marriage fell because of it. But that being said, man, I met my wife that I have now, and I fully intend on spending the rest of my life with her, man.
That's a good answer because I bet she listens to this.
Dude, I bet she does too. And anybody that knows her, like she's like 5'2" and built. She works out every day, to say the least. Unlike myself, I try to, but like I said, I work out normally at a fast food restaurant.
Can't you tell? I've been working out like some fierce man. I know it shows. I know it shows.
But that being said, man, it's crazy with like I was more so disappointed that I couldn't pull off what my parents did. But after having that conversation with with my mom, she was like, Dakota, when we grew up, when we were young, when we were newlyweds, there was no, you didn't, if you wanted to get in touch with somebody, you either phoned them or you sent them a letter in the mail.
Right.
Where
technology has changed
today, man, technology, I'm not going to, technology has just totally changed all aspects of our life, right?
Well,
like,
all relationships, all forms of relationships.
Everything.
You
and I connected on the internet.
I was going to say,
20
LinkedIn
years,
is how.
Or 25 years ago, that wasn't a thing.
We would have maybe crossed paths and never even known it, right?
On the interstate, maybe.
Maybe.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like I said, I really want to dive into, because for me, like I'm searching for that advice that you may have to offer of, I don't know what to tell my kids, my sons, right? I don't know what to tell my sons of hey, like, is this something you learned? Do you get over it as a young man as you're growing? Like I said, I have a 14-year-old that'll be 15 here in a few days. My 12-year-old will be 13 next June, and it's one of those things, man, where like I struggle with that as a dad. I struggle with that as being the guy that they look up to. Like, I don't know what to tell them. Is it, hey guys, like this is something you never get over. You just learn to live with it. Or is it something that I've done my very best to instill in my kids, of my son specifically, of, guys, adversity comes to all of us. It comes to every one of us. And how you deal with it is what defines you as a person, right?
Right.
And we all fail, especially being younger, teenagers, in our 20s, in our early, we fail in some aspect all the time. And man, like when I go to thinking about that, like, dude, it really bothers me. If I don't have any advice to offer them. You know what I mean?
I think this is one of those classic things, and it's more just honest advice, is we're our worst critic, and we beat ourselves up more than anybody else in everything. And I think that's exactly what's happening here, right? Time is the only thing that's really going to help with that. Mm-hmm. And I think one thing to always keep in mind is, even though they're your children and they may came biologically from the same two people or whatever the case may be, one of them, they're different in their own way, and they're going to feel differently about it than their brother or sister.
Right.
So it's out of your control, and you have to let it be there. I think the best thing to keep in mind and tell yourself is, I think everything comes in cycles. Right. Just like when we have rotation from the old guys in the Oilfield to the next group, I think the same thing will happen. And one positivity is, since your parents stayed together, you didn't, your
Hopefully
kids might have a drive to stay together, and you might be super happy watching it from afar. They achieved what you couldn't.
Sure.
So if anything, you might have paved the way for them to have a better lifestyle than you did.
Hey man, that's a great way to look at it. I mean, I can definitely respect that thought process on it. For me, really, it's kind of where I left them with it is, hey guys, this isn't nothing you get over. You learn to live with it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
It's it's a time thing.
Their mom is there for them. I'm there for them. And like I said, they live with her. Obviously, state of Texas, dad's rights are a rumor.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I think that's every state. I hate to be a bearer of bad news.
And like I said, Texas hits you where it hurts,
Yeah.
And like I said, I'm not here to really, it is what it is.
Oh, yeah.
My kids don't worry about a thing, right? I'm sure yours don't either. It is what it is, But like I said, that again, that's something I just struggle with. So, man, I greatly appreciate that advice. So moving past that, man, let's get into those early career days. Like,
okay.
So did your childhood and teenage years play a major part in the roles you've had in the past? And like, what did you learn from scenarios growing up that you applied to your professional career today? Is that something we can get into?
Oh, no, for sure. So I would say, really amazing. So I actually jumped into oil and gas right when I graduated.
Sure.
But then I jumped out, and there's a reason why. So my senior year, I was working at a gas station when I wasn't working for my dad, because I had to collect a paycheck somewhere, and he was never going to pay me. So I had to figure out how to coordinate that, right? So I did that, and there was a guy, Leroy Christensen, and his name was Leroy. If I'm wrong, if somebody's listening, please edit it in the film. But he pulled up to the gas station all the time. And so I would pump old ladies' gas, wash their windows, which is unheard of in these times. Even then, it wasn't a thing. But I did it anyway. Small town.
Sure.
People loved it. The old ladies tipped me. They always came there. They talked to each other. They talked to the owners. Everybody loved it, And I was a few days out from graduating, and the guy pulls up and he says, hey, I need a guy to run our roustabout team, somebody that can maintain. He's like, all these guys we get are garbage, essentially, for lack of better terms.
Right.
I come run these 25 to 30-year-old guys out there and take care of it. So I did. So at 18, boom, I leave there. I have my own company truck. I got 2 guys. I'm running a roustabout crew outside for DC Drilling. They had some oil wells out there, Lance Creek, Wyoming, that kind of area.
All right. Again, no clue where you're talking about, but I'm going to roll with it.
It's definitely in the boonies. The boonies of Wyoming, of West Texas, Wyoming. Let's call it that.
That's like the Orla of Wyoming.
Yes, that's it. Right?
Okay, I'm with you. So I can kind of picture that.
Yeah, you can kind of put it in place. But so I started doing that. Well, I was seeing a girl at the time. We dated all the way through high school when I got to Les, so like 3 years or so. And she forced me into accepting college in Casper, Wyoming. That's how I ended up at Casper, but that's a separate story in itself. But so I decide I'm going to go to college. So there was a guy by the name of Kelly Clay. He owns Admiral Beverage. So they own the Pepsi rights, which is crazy because most Pepsi locations are like Budweiser aren't like family owned anymore. They corporates bought them back.
Yeah, corporates
you know.
bought 'em.
So but he keeps like Wyoming, Utah, North Dakota, South Dakota. He's got a big spreadsheet of them, right? And he won't sell. Smart guy. He brought his daughter to Lust to go to high school. Her senior year, for lack of a better term, she's getting in trouble where she was at. So implant her into a smaller town, which I don't know. I mean, for most people that grew up in a small town, usually do more bad things in a small town. But I mean, let's just keep that, It seems like you just get away with it more,
I can relate to that statement as well.
Yeah. So I don't know if that's really a gaining ground kind of aspect, but, I get the whole goal there. He really liked me. He saw what I was doing. He essentially paid for my whole college. So I ended up going to college. I chose the technical route. Got associates in welding, and then I did some auto body stuff. 2 reasons, right? I wanted to show people I could succeed and graduate college. And second, I'm not going to lie to you. I wanted to party and have fun, and I didn't want to have to focus on studying. And that seemed like the easiest path of least resistance at the time.
So the company I work for, LOC International, we employ a lot of welders, and I've been around welders my whole oil and gas career. So if you want to party and work and go through school, I feel like welding is probably the best suited because you can hide that hangover under that hood.
As long as your spark's moving, man, nobody's got questions to ask.
That's it. What do they say? If you ain't burning, you ain't learning.
Yeah.
So
I learned immediately. I guess the moral of that, putting it together, is that everything's important and people are always watching. I had this conversation, and for people listening, I think this is a good piece of advice that they can take from us too, is stop putting on career fairs and stop trying to, do the same things we've done for 100 years, getting resumes, saying we can't find good people. They're not being creative, for one. They're not trying hard enough. And 3 is, it's amazing. Let's say you and I go out for dinner and maybe drinks. There's probably 3 people that we watch, and we can essentially, we're doing an interview, and you can see that they're amazing, hardworking, and they probably don't know how to get into our industry.
Right.
That's an amazing opportunity to say, hey, those guys are going to make more money. They're going to work twice as hard because you're giving them an opportunity, and they're going to start at the bottom, and that's where we need to fill the gap. And it blown me. I just can't fathom why people don't see this simple. I don't know. And people, when they listen to this, they're going to be like, oh, there's a waiter we've had a couple times.
Yeah.
Hey, I bet he'd be amazing at another job too. Watch him walk fast. Watch him do all this go above and beyond. You don't think he can't do that at any industry or any service that we provide?
Oh, for sure. So it's funny you bring that up about a waiter or bartender or whatever. So I worked for a huge oil and gas company based out of Houston for around 7 years. We were actually acquired by this company, but we ended up being a subsidiary of that company.
So the name with their name underneath it, blah, blah, blah company?
Yeah. Having to do with drill bits, maybe it starts, kind of read hike log, and we'll leave it at that. Like I said, that's where I got my, that was my first sales gig.
It's there.
Yeah, man. So I was a read hike log guy back in the day, man. But it was crazy. So, and it's been many years ago. I don't remember the specifics, but one of our higher up guys, right, kind of director level type.
Okay, so maybe like C-suite or just about somewhere there,
just below a C-suite kind of guy.
Talking to C-suite, but not quite sitting at the table.
Yeah, exactly. So they had So the story I heard back in the gap, as we say in East Texas, the story that I heard was basically had a waiter that this guy was just phenomenal. He would go out with employees or customers or whatever, and this waiter was just over the top. And this kid grew up in inner city, I say inner city Houston, inside the loop in Houston.
Yeah, okay.
Grew up there and just, he knew that the oil and gas business was big in Houston, but he was as far-fetched from it, as the East is from the West.
He saw the shiny diamond, but he didn't know anything about it, how it got that way, whatever.
He just knew there was a light over there.
Right.
And long story short, this gentleman that worked for Reed Hycolog / National Oil Barcode.
I was going to say, I just saw they did the Buffalo feed in Denver.
Yeah.
Shout out to them if they're listening. They're welcome now.
Man, I still have a lot of great friends that work within that organization. But like I said, the story that I got is they actually hired this guy kind of on the spot kind of thing. They had an open position, and they asked this waiter like, "Hey man, we love your attitude. We love the service that you provided us over the time we've been coming here on a regular basis and
real time interview."
Yes, and that guy got the job, right, which is awesome.
Yeah,
and those are more so one-offs. But like I said, I just want people to realize that although they're not, fifth, third generation oil and gas members that it's not, getting in the oil and gas business isn't unachievable. You just have to take that step, do your homework, and reach out to people within the industry, do your research, and it is achievable for everybody. We're not near the bad people that the news media makes us to be today.
That's a fair statement. I'm glad you touched on that. We are not bad people.
No, we're just. I'm out here trying to feed my family and
Right.
and provide. Cultivate these resources and provide for the rest of the world, power the rest of the world. And that's all I'm trying to do. I'm not trying to ruin the ozone. I'm not trying to
Right.
ruin nature. I'm not trying to ruin anything, man. I mean,
That's nobody's goal. We're not against the environmental.
I'm a steward of the land.
Facts.
Not only me, the owner of the company that I work for, my good friend Chance David, my family. Not only are we in the oil and gas business, man, we're farmers, we're ranchers, we're stewards of the land.
Right.
We cultivate the property that we own. We cultivate the property that we lease. So for people to say that people that are oil and the gas business are ruining the land, the nature, whatever, man, that's such a stereotype, because I can sit here and go through my phone all about 3,600 contacts, and I'm gonna say 1,000 of them are not only oil and gas, they're farmers, they're ranchers. They have cattle programs, they have horse programs, they have these ranches. So any argument, they're ruining the environment. These people, it's an ends to a mean, right?
Yeah.
Or I'm sorry, it means to an end, however you want to say that.
Right. It's just, it always falls in this one little category that can answer the question of why they act this way, and it's a lack of education, right? And I think we all know that, and there's some amazing people, that have came out and have tried to educate, from Jack Hamlin to these other organizations to J.P. Warren. A lot of people we know, they're like, hey, like, this is what we actually do. This is why we do it. I mean, it came out of the ground on its own. We didn't magically find it. I mean, there's so many variables, and explaining to people, what the end products are. One thing I really love, and I guess not to go too far down the rabbit hole, but Colorado's done it really good just because they had Proposition, I want to say 112, 119, whatever the numbers were. It's happened a few times where they put together this proposal that's going to shut down pretty much every single oil and gas asset. If you read it, that's what'll happen, right? So they had to start educating, the local people of Colorado. Hey, like, if you do this, here's what's going to happen. Here's your tax revenue that you get from this. Here's actually what we do. Hey, like, if you take away oil and gas, they made, and this is where I'm going with it, is a commercial, and it points out every aspect in their home, petroleum product, and then they take them away, and then you just have wood and, no television, no this, no that, and people don't understand that.
Colorado, I have a love-hate relationship with that
I think
state.
we all do, right? And for our own reasons.
Yes. Man, it's a beautiful state, but I feel like that state's been hijacked.
It has, oh man, how do we say it without saying California?
I'll say it with a capital C, California. The problem with, that I've seen with, and this is just, man, it's me, judge me, whatever. I'm sure we'll see this in the comments, getting demonized for it.
I mean, maybe it'll get some traction that way.
And I just want to say, I'm totally okay with that.
Me too.
Yeah. So it's one of those things for me where people leave California, right? And this is we're touching on something that I didn't want to touch, but guess what?
I mean, we're already there.
We're there.
There.
I feel like we have arrived. So the problem with, I'm not saying everybody. I'm going to say,
fair, right?
I'm going to say the ones that get the attention.
Well, the ones that we're talking about in this group.
Correct.
Maybe.
The ones that get the attention is what I'm going to go with.
Okay,
Right?
I like that. It is catchy. It's rolls off the tongue. I'll roll with that.
So they leave California because California sucks. Beautiful, beautiful state. Beautiful state that has been ruined by the politics there. But they left that state voting a certain way. So they go to another prosperous, beautiful state, and they vote the same damn way.
Right. Expecting, what is it? It's the insanity comment, is it not?
I was waiting on somebody to pick up on that. They're doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. But like I said, I don't want to go off in the political side of it, but I'm not scared to. And that's the problem with states like Colorado, and it's happening to Wyoming, Montana, Utah.
It's running over the. There's got to be a catchy term. I'll come up with something. Flooding over the border.
Hey, here's what sucks, man. It's happening to my home state, Texas.
Yeah.
And dude, it's happening at a rapid pace, man. Like the real estate. So from like Dallas, the Dallas Fort Worth Metroplex to San Antonio is one big megaplex. I mean, it's crazy the amount of traffic through there, the amount of growth. You know, and Austin. I mean, we've lost Austin. Austin's like the second Alamo.
So you can write them off as if though, like maybe we write off Jackson in Wyoming because it's just Colorado.
Yes, we have lost Austin, in my opinion. And again, I'll get crucified for it, but hey, I'm here for it. So by all means, fire away, give us something to talk about. But it's one of those things. I just wish people that when they go to somewhere new and they learn, I wish people would learn a lesson. Like we do in the oil and gas
Remember
business.
why they did it, why they left in the first place,
Yes,
maybe what they left?
Everybody demonizes the oil and gas business because we're horrible people, but these people vote the same way over and over again expecting a different result. There's a reason we don't free flow oil to the surface and put it in a retention pond.
Right.
Because we learned a lesson.
Yeah, I was going to say, everything that we do in oil and gas has been...
trial and error.
Absolutely. And every industry, I'm sure, there is growth, and we get better and better and better and better. Continual improvement is the name of the game.
Sure.
Right?
And once again, for me, it's just one of those things. The same people that are demonizing us, not having a clue what they talk about. Just they're getting, I don't know who they get their emails from, George Soros or whoever, that lets them know the talking points for the week to demonize everybody that doesn't fit this column.
Who put together the PowerPoint of negative aspects to address?
There you go.
Or to create on their own agenda, whatever
Again, I'm not going to discuss my political affiliation, but I feel like anybody that watches this could probably pick up on it pretty quick. And if not, I failed myself, and we'll just move on from there.
For sure.
But no, again, I just wish people would take what we do more serious and really realize how much we do for the world, our country, our state, our local economy. The fact that my wife gets her hair done every 4 or 5 weeks, gets her nails done every 2, 3, 4 weeks, whatever it is. I'm not even sure.
You just named 2 petroleum-based products.
Gets her lashes done every Wednesday. She's able to do that because of what the oil and gas industry has done for my family.
Right.
And by the industry doing that for me, I'm able to do that for her, and she's able to do that for the people that she chooses to spend her money with.
Right.
And people forget about that. People hate that domino effect term because somebody demonized it several years ago that it was a bad thing. Man, it is a fact. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction.
Absolutely. Right? That is science in itself, 101.
For every dollar every 20-something-year-old kid makes in the oil and gas business, he's going to spend $1.50 of it.
Yeah, that is so true, And people forget that, I mean, when our industry is maintaining or, in a positive direction, whatever the shift may be, they do pay it forward in many avenues, many ways. It's not just, your generic donations or your volunteering events or whatever. It's spread out drastically, from restaurants. Those employees get better tips. More people are eating out, growing that business, maintaining that, helping those people, right? So, there's a huge spread that people don't consider, right? When they're bringing it down or talking down on it, maybe?
People tend to speak from emotion and not rational thought.
Which you would think, yet again, it's 2024, you think we'd all be really educated and rational, but I've been shown wrong plenty of times.
Man, I've been wrong plenty of times.
I might be wrong now.
Right.
We'll know in the comments.
Yeah, for sure, man. Well, hey, look, we'll wrap up this episode, buddy. Man, I greatly appreciate you flying down to be with me, or driving down, actually. I'm sorry.
I did. I want to say, it's like 950 some odd miles, and it was well worth it to hang out with Dakotah Klein, shake your hand,
there you go,
get to sit in this room with you, talk some real factual stuff, dive into some stuff probably a lot of people didn't know about me, as well as you.
Sure.
Put that in the universe. It's permanent now, so I mean, we can't take it back.
Well, good deal, man. Well, hey, look, we appreciate everybody watching our show. Give us a like, give us a comment, smash that follow button, and we'll see you next time.